Talk with Alexandru. This is the podcast where we dive into the real stories, hard lessons learned in practical way, and tactics to grow your business. And today we have Tom Mallens with us, who is a veteran sales expert. So this is about as much as I can give us an intro. How about you give us a bit of a background, Tom?
Yeah, thanks, Alexandru. First of all, thank you for having me on. So I got started in technical business-to-business sales about 20 or so years ago. I was selling specialty adhesives for a big Swiss chemical company. And then I got involved in all kinds of other sales, selling machinery, capital equipment, raw materials. And for the last 7 years or so, I've been training other salespeople. So working with businesses and sales teams who see untapped potential in their people. And I've been sharing some of my know-how, knowledge, ideas to really help them take their sales results to the next level.
Okay, brilliant. So I understand now you are in UK, correct?
That is correct.
Normally you are based in Dubai, if
That
that's
is
my
correct,
correct
yes.
understanding. Okay.
Moved out there last year. And so I've been there about 7-8 months now.
Okay, right. So now that we have a bit of more of an understanding with what do you do, I will try to keep this more, our guests are used to a conversational type of podcast, so I will try to keep it as light as possible. So I have a question. Obviously, myself being from a engineering background, obviously working in composites, working in Formula One, and it's imperative that people understand that aspect as well. Why do you think that technically strong companies often struggle commercially? Why do you think that is, Tom? What's your opinion?
It's a good question. So I think what it is that very often they struggle to accept the reality that their technical skills are not as valuable in the sales marketplace as they would like to think. And that's a painful pill for them to swallow. They might have 10, 20, 50, 100 years of expertise in their company, tremendous amounts of knowledge and know-how and qualifications, but that doesn't matter to a lot of potential customers. They've heard it all before because every company says we've got the most technical knowledge. What really matters is a company's ability to do effective outreach, prospecting, to talk about the problems and challenges that they can fix. Those are the things that help them get ahead in sales. And so I think for many companies, they have to have a mindset adjustment and put aside their technical knowledge to start building up their sales knowledge. And that's difficult for them to do. It can be challenging.
Yeah, I think you're right. I believe in the case of Formula One, probably aerospace, I would imagine as well. They struggle as well with another aspect. They can't really showcase their work because it's all under NDAs. So having these contracts signed up with the companies that they collaborate with, obviously it makes it a lot more difficult for them to showcase particularly what they do, so the products that they create. Not that they don't have the expertise, but I think that makes it, I don't know if you agree or not, but that makes it as well very challenging indeed.
Yes.
So in practical sales fundamentals, what good sellings looks like in reality. So some simple improvements that someone can implement, whether it be in their business, as a business or as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the thing I've observed over the last couple of decades when I speak to salespeople, I think generally speaking, salespeople do not ask enough questions. They do too much talking and not enough asking. So I see this all the time. Their whole mindset is focused on how they can give information and tell potential customers about their service, when in actual fact, their whole mindset should be focused on gathering information, asking questions, getting more details. And that's the quickest way to improve your selling skills, is to ask a lot more questions. Why are you speaking to me today? What made you take this meeting? What are you hoping to achieve? What problems are you having? How are those problems affecting you? Why do you want to fix these problems? Why do you want to achieve this project or outcome that you're working towards? It's getting all that information first that will allow you to do a much more effective proposal or presentation or quote further down the line. So I think that's the easiest way to improve your selling, is just to ask a lot more questions.
Interesting. Okay, so obviously from the last webinar that you have presented on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, at which I was present, and I saw firsthand what you do. In terms of LinkedIn and lead generations, how can people like B2B, for example, I'm a small business owner and working with another small business or bigger business. How can salespeople use LinkedIn effectively? Like what most people get wrong?
Yeah, it's a good question. So,
and what's working right now as well? If you could tell us that'd be great.
So the first thing to ask yourself with any kind of project, any tool, but particularly on LinkedIn, is what are you hoping to get from it? So if you're hoping to simply get brand awareness, then you're going to take different actions from if you're hoping to get leads, meetings, appointments. Now, most salespeople that I speak to, they want leads, they want inquiries coming in, and they want warm opportunities to follow up. So if you are in that second category, you want to get leads, tangible sales opportunities, then I think the biggest mistake people make is they do not have a good reason their potential customers should get off LinkedIn. I talked about this on the webinar. If you want leads, if you want meetings, if you want sales opportunities, at some point, those people that you are communicating with on LinkedIn need to get off LinkedIn and one step further along your sales process. So you have to have a good, compelling reason to give people to get off LinkedIn. So marketers would call this a lead magnet, but I don't think a lot of salespeople are familiar with that kind of terminology. They don't know what a lead magnet is, and they should, because it's the one thing they really need to start getting people off LinkedIn. Now, it can be very easy to create a lead magnet, but you've got to have that lead magnet mentality. You've got to be thinking, what's something valuable that I can offer potential customers that they would want, that is very quick and easy for me to create.
Right. Okay. So in terms of real advice, real world advice for engineers, maybe contractors like myself, and business owners, how would you increase income opportunities? So I hear you and I understand what you just said. But for me, developing commercial awareness alongside technical skill, I think it's also very important. So what's your opinion in regards to that?
Right. So my opinion in regard to how to increase commercial opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's really fundamentally two ways. One, you can make the opportunity you're offering people more valuable. So you can sell something for a higher price, make it much more valuable, and then you make one sale, it can replace the work of 10 sales. So have a bigger opportunity for people to invest in. And then two, make sure more people know about your opportunity. We've got to spread awareness. There's a lovely idea that our biggest challenge in sales is anonymity. People can't do business with us if they don't know who we are. So we need to make sure as many of the right people know who we are. And LinkedIn is a great place to do that, by the way. As many of the right people as possible know who we are. And we've got to have a compelling and interesting offer. So work on getting a compelling offer. If you're an engineer, if you're a technician, you've got to look at ways to frame or describe what you sell in ways that are really, really appealing to your potential customers. They've got to be really focused on how it's going to help that potential customer. I don't think it's enough to simply go out there and explain you have the best quality, the most cost-effective pricing, the best service. Everyone says that. You've got to find a way to describe your offer in a way that is really, really compelling. And then you've got to make sure as many of the right people know about that offer as possible. So it really is that simple. Now, once you've got those two simple concepts, then you can break down how you're going to do that, what tools you're going to use. But if you're not clear on those concepts to start with, you'll be just running around being busy but not really going anywhere.
I see. I hear you. So it ties into one of the points you mentioned earlier, basically, where companies don't really listen to the clients. They don't really want to. They think that the technical side, being very good on their technical side and achieving, whatever it may be at a very high, level, would solve their problems. But in reality, they don't, because then they are, like I see it every day in manufacturing, in Formula One or companies, a lot of them, they start a couple of engineers or contractors, they gather together, they start a company, and then they rely on someone feeding them little bit by little bit work.
Yes.
But if that work dries out, then they back a square zero, and they have overheads, they have bills like everyone else would have, and that creates a big issue. I clearly see that. Moving on to a little different kind of subject. In comparison, how would you say that the market in UK versus Dubai in terms of business environment, like maybe differences in mindset? So I'm from Romania originally. I was born and bred in Romania. I've spent about 19 years in Romania till after I finished military service, I decided to immigrate. So obviously I have a bit of a different mindset rather than what the UK mindset is. Also, I spent 15 years in Portugal working in hospitality, working in hotels, working in restaurants, and again, that kind of imposed upon me a slightly different mindset than let's say regular people would have. Not necessarily that they're from UK or elsewhere in the world, but that formed a kind of different way to view things. So in your opinion, what would be the main differences that you see in mindset, opportunity, approach to sales? And
it's a great question. My experience so far has been twofold, really. So very few people out of the total population are natives to the UAE. Most people are expats, they're immigrants there, they've moved there to try and achieve something, to try and improve their lives, to try and get ahead. So there's a real palpable sense of ambition. People are trying to get somewhere, they're ambitious, they're trying to build something, create something, and you can really feel that. You can really feel that in the conversations you have. Everyone's there for a reason to make something happen. No one's really coasting. No one's just taking it easy. They're there to do something. So that really comes across in the networking and the people you meet and just the whole atmosphere. The second thing is it's very relationship heavy. Now, business is relationship heavy anyway. People do business with people they like and trust, people that are similar to them. But because you've got people from all around the world, from different countries and different cultures, people are really focused on meeting up, having a bit of a get to know you catch up. So the whole scene of meeting up for coffees, getting to know people is really, really noticeable. People want to meet up. People want to have coffees with people, get to know people. And that's very different, I think, from the UK, where there's less of that. They might say, let's book a meeting. In Dubai, it will be more a case of, yeah, let's meet up, take it slowly, get to know each other, get a coffee, see where it goes from there.
okay, seems we have a bit of our first glitch. The internet kind of is playing up with us a little bit here. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, so yes, I agree. In terms of that, I 100% agree. From what I've seen, sounds a little bit with what I experienced in Portugal, where a lot of people, not necessarily just on weekends, but they start their day at the coffee shop, having a little, a little pastel, a little cake with an espresso, and I think as well that has a little bit of an impact on the psychological side as well.
Yes.
So you start your day in a bit of a different mood. Let's put it that way. I don't know if you agree, but I definitely. I wanted to ask a bit of a question in regards. Obviously, you got a lot of experience in sales, a lot more than I have. I've experienced sales from a different point of view, as behind the counter, maybe behind the bar, or maybe as a waiter or something similar, right? So for me, sales is delivering to the client, to the final client, a product that maybe they have an idea that they want, but they don't know, or you have the odd occasion where you get that client that is set up on his ways and says, no, I want steak, and that I'm dead on the steak. Even if you tell him that the steak is 3 weeks old, he will still want the steak. So I think in regards to that, I don't know how more difficult it is to work with businesses. I suppose as a contractor, I sell myself. I sell a skill, call it that way. So it's not. Yes, there is a final product that will come from my skill, but not such as a product. So what would you call the difference in that regards?
Between business to business and business to consumer?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, there are some practical differences. When you're selling to a consumer, you're generally selling to one single individual. In business to business, it's rare or increasingly rare that only one person is taking the decision. There's often a committee that's going to be involved in taking that decision. So there are some practical differences. The actual skill itself, I don't think, is hugely different, because in both situations, it's about asking questions and understanding where people are now, what their current reality is, and where it is they want to get to, what their desired reality is. So I think it's equally the same in business to business as in business to consumer. I think the differences are a lot less than people might imagine. If you go to a business to business meeting, people want to convince you that it's all about price, but of course, really, it's still all about emotions, what their desires are, what they're trying to get, what problems they're trying to fix. These are all the same levers of influence that people use in business to consumer selling. And there are so many examples of business owners who buy things because they want to buy them. I've heard examples when I used to sell machinery, a guy that ran a business, and he bought this huge piece of machinery, an industrial flatbed laminating press, big piece of machinery, hundreds of thousands of pounds. And he essentially bought it because he found out that a guy down the road in a similar factory had also just bought one. So his motivation was essentially keeping up with the Joneses, wanting to, still have all the latest stuff. And there are loads of examples of that where people have possibly irrational motivations for buying things. And I think that's one of the big things business to business salespeople need to understand. People do not act rationally. People don't act rationally. So we as salespeople have to ask questions to understand what someone's buying motivation is.
Yes, yeah, I think we are in agreement there. I do see this on a daily basis, so to speak, because over a decade I've been in the composite industry, and I've seen the pattern where a company purchases, let's call it an autoclave, and is top of the game, the latest in manufacturing, in production, and etc., etc. And then you see it a couple of months down the line, then the next big company does exactly the same step. I've seen it with the 3D printing when they started. And a lot of companies, they started copying each other. A lot of engineering, Formula One. One bought an SLA 3D printer, and then the second company started posting in LinkedIn, and they bought an SLA 3D printing, and so on and so forth. And yes, you are 100% right. They do try to keep up. I think also there's a necessity to do that, to keep up with the demands of the market.
Yes.
In terms of engineering and production, you don't want to be left behind, because then the client will choose the one that's on top of their game, that's right up there. But inherently, I think you are 100% correct. We do make decisions up on our feelings. We don't always make the best decisions with our brains. We feel that's the right decision to make, but we find out maybe a couple of months or years down the line that it wasn't the case. And I mean, it's this camera, I apologize, this seems a bit unprofessional, but this camera is today, it doesn't want to play ball whatsoever.
No problem.
So yeah, I do agree with what you just said right there. I think so. Obviously, in regards of what you do, Tom, I'm genuinely curious personally. Obviously, after watching your webinar and understanding more about what you do. I think the public, maybe the audience staff, would like to understand in terms of LinkedIn, because obviously you are quite, my personal opinion, you are quite an expert at dealing with B2B and LinkedIn and how to make the most of it. Mm-hmm. And obviously, personally, I would just invite people to come onto your webinar and, and get on board with the program, so to speak, and kind of see what you have to offer. Because I think it's not just about sales, but I think it's also about life lessons. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they are important. So personally, I look onto my past and the things that I've learned every time that I was wrong. And every time that we make a decision like we just spoke about, it may not be the right decisions. We think we make the right decisions, but sometimes they're not. So for example, myself, I updated recently my LinkedIn profile because one of the things I was saying there, I was using the word help, and I didn't realize that a lot of, individuals that they are in higher up positions, like managerial positions or whatever, they don't really like the word help. I don't want to be helped. I want to be empowered. So just that little tweak, to me, it resonated. It made sense, but to other people. So what would you suggest to people? What would be the best approach? So a couple of tips. You don't have to give us the whole book, the whole playbook, obviously. For that, people probably will have to subscribe to your services, I imagine. But a couple of tips to help people.
Yeah. So these tips, I think, hopefully apply equally to salespeople, business-to-business salespeople, whether you're using LinkedIn or not. Okay. So number one, I'd encourage you to get really, really familiar with the challenges, the frustrations, the problems, and the pains that your ideal potential customers have. If you're in sales, you have got to become an expert on understanding and talking about the problems and challenges that the people you want to sell to have. Because the minute you can explain and talk about their problems, they think, one, someone finally understands me. There's someone out there that gets the frustrations I have to deal with. And two, they think, well, that person can probably fix them. They understand those problems so well. They've given me some insights into why they're happening. It seems very clear that they could fix them.
They would want to listen more.
Absolutely, absolutely. So get really clear on those challenges, those frustrations. If you're in engineering, you need to get really clear on the challenges, the problems that your engineering services fix. Second thing is you need to get really clear on what kind of outcomes and results do your ideal potential customers want to achieve. What does that vision of the better future look like? So when they're sat there dealing with this problem, what do they think to myself? Oh, if only things were like this, everything would be better. What is that this in your industry? So those two things, the frustrations, the challenges, the problems, and that desired reality, the dreams, the goals, the outcomes, those are the two things that you fundamentally need to talk about on LinkedIn. When you do content, when you do posts, those are really good things to talk about. You can talk about the problems and challenges to show that you understand your potential customers. You can talk about why those problems and challenges are happening to demonstrate your credibility and your knowledge. And you can talk about the kind of outcomes you deliver. either that you've achieved yourself or that your customers have achieved by working with you. So then you create evidence that you can deliver those end results. So get really clear on those two things. That's the first thing that I would suggest. Second thing, then this is a bit more LinkedIn specific. You've got to understand that when you're on LinkedIn, it's very easy for people to ignore you. If you're at a trade show or an exhibition, you can go onto someone's stand and they may or may not be interested, but you're there in front of them. When you're on LinkedIn and they look at your content or your messages, they can just swipe their thumb and you vanish. So that message and that content, it has to resonate with people emotionally. It has to make them feel something.
Yes. What we were talking earlier, sorry to interrupt, about emotional purchases, buying with emotions, not with our...
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And that could be a positive or a negative emotion. Because if people see your stuff and they think, oh, that's outrageous, that's terrible, that's wrong, they're still interacting with it, they're engaging with it, they're commenting, they're liking, they're giving it attention. So think about those emotional hooks. It's a really good idea to ask yourself, what are the controversial or the polarizing topics within your sector or industry? What are the things that will get people talking because they feel emotionally invested? So that's the second thing. And then the third thing I would say when it comes to LinkedIn is we've just got to build a bit of a routine or a habit. So it's very easy when you go on LinkedIn to sit down in front of your computer or pull out your phone and then get sucked into a vortex of content. And you just sit there scrolling. That's what LinkedIn want you to do, of course, because you're consuming, you're looking at the advertising.
Like any other social media platform, really.
It's a social media platform. They want you glued to that screen. So the people that get the best results are the people that have a little routine, which might be something like, I sit down and the first thing I do is I send some connections, then I send some messages, then I create some content, and then I follow up with emails, and then I add them to a database. We can help people design the right routine for them, but there is a routine and a structure to their outbound prospecting. So again, that really applies to any salespeople, whether they're using LinkedIn or not. You need to have a structure for your prospecting, because if you sit down and you think, oh, who am I going to talk to today? Who am I going to message today? It's easy to achieve nothing. But if you know exactly what you're going to do, to reach out to which companies and say what kind of things, then it's a lot easier and you'll get much better results.
My cats are going mental. They're not used to normally I'm not home at this time of the day, so they're not used to. Brilliant. Tom, you delivered 100%, more than I was expecting. And I 100% agree. I believe, and probably if you had a look of what I have been doing, like we have spoken already previously, most of the stuff I personally do is, like you say, record, whether it's on the phone, whether it's on the camera, and actually minimal editing. I think, yes, if you're trying to make content for engagement in a piece of cinema, almost kind of thing, like a mini Hollywood kind of video or whatever, I understand that then you will have to spend a lot of time into editing and making that piece of content as desirable as possible so people can stop scrolling and watching it. But at the same time, I think the message is very important. And if you dilute the message with all that, then it loses its purpose. So I personally just record, dump, and then forget about it, move on to the next. I found it works for me. I might be wrong, and probably you're going to correct me if I am. But is probably the best way. And also the same too, there's a lot of negative energy out there. So
Yes.
I also try to, even when I started this journey of podcasting and recording my mini vlogs in the car and all that. A lot of people in my own industry, people that I worked for a long time, they know me for a long time, and they had their negative biases and oh, why are you doing all this and what? And I think the best way to deal with it is like just put it out there and
Yes.
don't worry too much about what other people are saying. If you want to achieve, like you say, your energy, what you want to achieve, where you want to go, I think that is more important than sometimes what other people may want to think or say about it.
Yes. Absolutely.
I think I've stolen enough of your time, Tom, and I think that brings you and me for today to an end. Hopefully we will have in the future more sessions like this. I don't know. We will see. But thank you so much for sharing these insights and stories that you have. And I personally definitely learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners have as well. And also, all I'm going to say from my side, for everyone else out there, if you want to grow kind of beyond your trading hours for money, maybe start applying these tips that Tom has shared with us today. And we're going to have so Beast Talk with Alexandru, myself, we're going to have a WhatsApp group that's going to be shared soon. And people can join as well. And I extend that invitation to you as well, Tom. So it's going to be a group for engineering for people in the space that I work with. People that worked in the past, that probably work in the future, you never know. And also, if you are serious about taking action, about all those good things, we are handpicking a couple of people that want to boost their business. And maybe if you, Tom, are open to it, we can funnel them to your way, and then you can help them out. You can point them what they're doing wrong and what they're doing well, and they should carry on with doing well, and maybe what they're doing wrong, change that bad habit. So without other things to say from me personally, I don't know if you want to say something in a closure.
No, other than thank you very much for having me. It's been great to talk to you. For any salespeople or business people out there, you can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Tom Mallens, all one word. Drop me a line. Let me know that you've listened to this show. As Alexandru said, I can let you know about the upcoming webinars that we're doing where you can find out more. And if you are in sales, congrats, because it's one of the best professions to be in. If you can build your sales skills, then you'll never be short of work and you'll always have a lot of opportunities. So thanks very much for having me, Alexandru.
You're welcome, as always. And until next time, everyone that's following Beast Talk with Alexandru, whether it's on LinkedIn, I'm happy to share. There's over 8,000 of you there. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And keep building, keep grinding, keep doing great things because we love it. So until next time, be successful, people.